Mr. Cuellar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Secretary, I forgot to mention this at the very beginning. I really appreciated the trip that you did down to the Valley, where you found some balance going down there, because most secretaries just go and talk to law enforcement and won't talk to the public, won't talk to anybody. So I appreciate the balance that you brought there, especially the humanitarian aspect of it, where you met with Sister Norma and other folks. I appreciate that balance. And I was there a few days after you were there, and I told them I have a lot of faith in the work that you have done and will be doing also. A couple of things. I would ask you to follow up on the Stark County. As you know, we added language that would ask for some input. So it looks, by coincidence, that y'all had the 8 miles that y'all were looking at, where we would get input from the local communities, and I believe the Stark County people came up here and met with your office, and even the Laredo folks came up, and they were saying, look, we're willing to do this. And what did you all do in Stark County? They said, instead of 8 miles, we're going to get rid of 4 miles, and it happens to be that those 4 miles are within the city limits where the language applies. So looks like somebody's trying to circumvent the legislative language that we added that was very simple, input. Might be a coincidence, but I would ask you to take a look at that, number one, because, I mean, nothing wrong to get local input as to the design or the alignment of the infrastructure. Then the other thing is, I was in Mexico City with folks from Pelosi's office, the Ways and Means. We were there on labor reform with the Senate, and they just passed it yesterday. And I just happened to be with Donataio Guillen, which I think you know. He's the head of the Mexican Migration Institute. And it just happened to be at that time, 1,300 roughly, mainly Cuban prisoners had escaped. He and I spoke, and I'll be very straightforward what I told him. I said, I think those folks that escape should be reported to CBP as people that violated the law down there in Mexico, and that should be taken in consideration when they ask for asylum. My personal opinion on that, but I told them they should contact Homeland on that. The reason I'm bringing all this up is because I think we need to give Mexico a little bit more credit to what they're doing down there. And any work or any help that you can give them, because they don't want to be seen as doing America's dirty work, to be quite honest. But they are trying to do their part. In talking to him and talking to the chief of staff for the president, Mr. Alfonso Romo and other folks, they are hoping that they can detain and return 600 to 800 people a day. Let's say 800 people a day. Those are 800 people a day that will be coming to the U.S. That's about 24,000 individuals a month if they continue to do their work. So I do want to see how we can help them. You know, in the humanitarian area, biometrics in the southern part with Guatemala. Ask you to do everything you can, because, again, we have to give Mexico the credit that they're doing. And unfortunately, some people don't do that, but I think you understand the work that they're doing. So I would ask you, one is the language that we added in Stark County and make sure there's no circumvention. And number two is, what can we do to help the Mexicans? And by the way, I've invited Mr. Guillen and other folks, and they want to come here, and certainly I'm sure you're going to meet with them, and I asked them if they can meet with some of the folks here at the Capitol. And again, thank you for bringing that balance to the board. I'm very appreciative of meeting with Norma, Sister Norma.
I'd very much enjoyed meeting with the mayors in Rio Grande Valley, as well as Sister Norma Pimentel and some of our NGO partners on the humanitarian mission. That's essential. Absolutely, we'll follow the provisions of the law on the wall and the consultation with local communities, especially in Starr County. We'll get back to you on any concerns on circumvention of that. You mentioned our partnership with Mexico. We can't manage a regional phenomenon without a close partnership with really the main transit country now in Mexico. Historically, they were a source country of migration. Now they're primarily a transit country and sometimes a destination country. So that's a big change in terms of their policy approach. I've met with Tonatiuh Guillen at NAMI several times already in his tenure, as well as his boss, Secretary Sanchez, and we're going to continue that partnership. 600 to 800 interdictions and repatriations on the Mexican southern border is an important step. I do give them credit. That is about 25 to 33% of the crossings that we're seeing daily from Central America. And really what we're encouraging is addressing the smuggling organizations that are preying on families and children. And that's something that I think we have close policy alignment between this administration and the Mexican administration. We do not want people to be paying smugglers. We do not want people to be in dangerous situations trying to head to our border. And I think that's an area we're going to continue to partner closely with Mexico on. Thank you.